My oh my people, what's going on? This is L.A. Williams, the blind phone master, and we are 75 days away from the Internet Sales 20 group in Houston, Texas. Hey y'all, I finally caught up with Sean. He was in Kansas City at a restaurant having a conversation with a gentleman from Iheart Media. His name's John Karpinski, and so we just had the bright idea of doing a podcast live in the restaurant. So this is the absolute craziest thing I've ever had to edit, but the information was absolutely stupendous. So, hey, just had to put it out. It's the Millionaire Car Salesman. You guys can deal with it. You're going to love it.
Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now, your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
Bradley and my man,
L.A. Williams.
Okay, the Blindfold Master, and we have a special on-site edition of the Millionaire Podcast right here. It's the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. I am with, introduce yourself, sir.
John Karpinski, EVP of Automotive at Iheart Media.
Okay, Iheart Media, isn't that the radio?
Radio, events, third largest media company in the United States, just behind Google and Facebook in terms of unique users every single month. People don't know that really. We got 149 markets of radio stations.
Okay, that's crazy. Well, tell us about your background first of all. Like, how long have you been in automotive and, just a professional, and go from there?
Yeah, so been in the media business almost 20 years now. Started in TV, moved into radio, been focused on the automotive industry about 10 years now as we started to see the change of how consumers were being driven to dealerships. And to me, it was really exciting that, shopping for cars became really a daytime activity. I think that to me means more than anything as dealers try to find the most efficient way to reach the consumer. It's during the day when consumers shop, and I think that's what really changed in the industry for us in the last 10 years.
Okay, so question for you. When people think, radio or like traditional media, some people might feel like it's antiquated, but from my understanding talking to you, it's really not. It's morphed, it's evolved. So tell us, can you just clarify the relevancy of traditional media and radio in 2019 and 2020?
Fair question, because the rise of the internet. I think the first thing to remember is that 92% of people are still exposed to radio every single week. It's what's in the cars. The other part of it about traditional media, people, the smartphone was supposed to make us, more connected, but it actually made us less connected to individuals. People like that shared experience, and that's what radio is. That's why you like your morning DJ. The guy on the north side of town and the guy on the south side of town, which might have different lines, both get the information at the same time, and then can take it with it what they want. It's just like why we like going to concerts still, why we like going to sports games, because you share that experience. So radio has really filled that gap, and like I said, we've grown not because radio got great or TV got bad or anything like that. The consumer, and I always remind dealers this, shifted to shopping during the day. It used to be, you never saw people 15 years ago sitting at their desk reading the newspaper, right, looking for a car at 10 a.m. But if you look at any dealer's Google Analytics, their site traffic is between 70% of their site traffic is between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. It's just people doing it at work now, shopping for cars. So at that point, radio became a much more relevant advertising medium for dealers. And then it's also accepting the fact that what are dealers trying to advertise? They're trying to advertise consideration and really to get you to go to the website, right? I don't care what any dealer tells you, broadcast, digital, whatever. Yes, they want people to come into the showroom, but we know they go to the website first. So if you think about that, shopping's happening during the day. Radio can deliver that frequency of message of what your website is over and over and over again, especially while you're in your car. But to remind people that when you're in that mode to shop, here's a website I have to visit. You're just trying to gain consideration. So I always remind dealers, quit being so worried about price at item in your broadcast advertising. That's where I think they fail. Each dealer spends tens of thousands of dollars a month to make sure their prices online are competitive, right? There's no dealer that doesn't. What a consumer needs to hear is, why should I shop at your dealership? What makes you separate? I'll give an example of consideration. A dealer down in Dallas is on one of those busy highways, right? I'm sure a lot of your clients are on those busy, going north is busy in the morning, going south in the afternoon is busy. He advertises, don't come to my dealership between 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. because the traffic's too bad. Now, does he really mean don't come to my dealership? Of course he doesn't mean that. But what he's doing is all those people who drive by, who sit in that traffic every day, that's his customer. And he's connecting with them by saying, I get it, how bad it sucks to drive down this road. Now, will that stay in their mind more than $2.99 a month? Of course it is, because you're sharing an experience with them. That's how you want to use traditional media, and that's why it doesn't work for a lot of dealers when it's price item,
Right.
did I take it back? Because you're missing what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them to remember you from all the noise that's out there and all the pricing that's competitive of why would I trust shopping with that dealer? That's what you're trying to connect with. Another example, car dealer who sells Toyota Camrys out west. He talks about cup holders. 5 times in his ad, he mentions cup holders because he's targeting women. And I asked him, why would you mention cup? Does that sell a car? And he looked at me, he goes, think about your wife going out to her car with your kids. She's got her water and her coffee and your kids' goldfish and your kids' water. Like, cup holders are important to a mom.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's going to be the reason it's going to buy the car, but it's going to stay in that mom's mind of that ad talked to me in a real way about my experience. How do I get the consideration there? So I think that's where traditional media can set the tone of who you want to be. Oh, thanks.
So this is really powerful because a lot of people misunderstand traditional media. You know, what I just got out of what you said, John, is really powerful. If you're trying to just go on broadcast media or radio, for example, and just spam price payments, buy now, buy now, buy now, you might have incremental success, but that's not the right way that you use broadcast media. If I'm understanding you correctly, it's for frequency, top of mind awareness, branding.
Okay, branding used to be a bad word in our business.
Right.
But now if you think about the internet is the newspaper 20 years ago.
True.
It's just a list of everybody. Who's going to pay more to be at the top? Just like the guy who ran the double truck newspaper ad where he was a gladiator. He spent more than the other guy. The other thing I always try to talk to dealers about is I always ask them, how important is reputation management? And every dealer in the world will say, it's very important. You know, they're on their reviews all the time, right, to make sure. Well, think about how crazy it is that your reputation management strategy is only answering the reviews of the people who put it online. Traditional media is the original reputation management. Why not tell customers what they're supposed to think of how you deliver, how you work, rather than waiting for them to just read the review that someone put online? I joke, if you called our DJs influencers who deliver reputation management, we'd be the sexiest thing alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
But because it's radio, it's like a DJ doing a live read, they don't connect what they're actually trying to do. We have influencers who reach tens of thousands of people in every market, and you can use them to tell the consumer what you're known for rather than waiting for the internet to tell them what you're known for, because that's the miss with digital. Digital is great, and I believe digital should be the backbone of every dealer. I want to make sure I'm very clear there. But digital doesn't express that emotion. Digital is price and item. Digital is inventory. And if I sat down with any dealer and I asked them, why should I shop at your dealership? None of them mention price first. Their dealership brings a different value to the table. Traditional media lets you tell that story, where digital media lets you tell price and item. That make sense?
100%. Now eat a little bit while I freestyle for you. So I'm gonna give you some time here. I wanna build on what you said, because I think what you're saying here is awesome, and I'm so glad that you took the time to be on this podcast, because we are in the digital world, and a lot of times people forget the other things that are viable. But you used a phrase just now that I want to bring back to the audience: influencers. Influencer marketing is extremely powerful. When you look at somebody like Kylie Jenner that broke the internet when she turned on and tweeted about Snapchat. I mean, like, how do you turn on and it cause $1 billion loss on the NASDAQ because of a freaking social comment? So influencers are really powerful. And then to your point, having these DJs that have a fan base, that have, like, for example, Elvis Duran, huge morning show guy, having him say something about your product, or have him say, or somebody from his crew say something about what you're doing. And because my background, my wife in the entertainment industry with LA and the entertainment industry, and me as a published author, there's a difference between being an independent artist versus being a major label artist. There's a difference between being a self-published author or signed to a publishing company. I think that broadcast media, to me, is major league stuff. And a dealership, if they're going to think of it that way strategy-wise, to your point, digital could be inventory pricing, we're going to buy the car, but to become famous, to become well-known, to you know, for me, I think if I'm hearing the right message, not spamming price and payments on the radio and stuff like that, but if I'm hearing positive things that you're doing in the community, hey, come down, we're having a car clinic at ABC Motors, hey, we're doing this thing for, you know, checking for, you know, car safety seats, you know, because car safety seats are the, you know, one of the leading killers of toddlers, so we're the only people in Merriam, Kansas that's certified to install and inspect car safety seats. I mean, there's so many different things that you could use broadcast media to influence people.
You nailed it. And production for radio is inexpensive, so you need to treat it like digital in updating it on a regular basis, right? Because you have those opportunities. You're trying to connect emotionally. Having the same ad out there doesn't work. Use radio. We always say radio makes your digital work better, so that when you go to that list online and you see everybody who's been bidding on every term, what makes me click on you? It's a previous understanding of who you stand for. I'll give you some interesting math to do with a client one time. Take your Kylie Jenner example. Take Kylie Jenner, however many million people she has, divide that, you know, by the United States, right? If you look at any city, take Kansas City, and you say, okay, Kansas City is 0.5% of the U.S. population, whatever it is. Take that as a percentage of Kylie Jenner's listenership. So in essence, if Kansas City is 0.5 of the U.S. population, then 0.5 of her followers would probably be in Kansas City, right? Whatever that number is. You take that number and you look at the followers of our DJs and influencers, and our DJs and influencers have more followers in these local markets than a Kylie would if you look at the math. So in essence, you have access to influencers who have bigger followings in your home markets than these national celebrities, and they connect with people. Because the reality is outside of the top 3 markets, most of these DJs live in the same communities as the people that they, you know, that they're talking to on a regular basis. LA, you got one?
LA.
Yeah, and what it sounds like to me is that we're talking about the negative one moment of truth, right? Google with the whole zero moment of truth is, you know, as soon as someone thinks about it. But with influencers, it's basically before you even thought about it, I'm sharing with you exactly what you should be thinking. And then it's like, oh, I never thought about that. And now it begins that mind process.
It's exactly what you said. It's I call it forced reputation management. What do you want to be known for? Tell people what you want to be known for instead of letting them make the decision. Because let's call a spade a spade. Car dealers and media salespeople, you know, there's a perception of what we are and what we do. And we've reinforced it for years, right? So it's important for us to address that, not hide from the fact. Tell a consumer what they want. Tell them that you're trusted. Not wait for somebody. Tell them that you've got a guarantee or whatever, but force it on top of them rather than letting the reviews, because we know 70% of the people who do reviews online are just complaining, right? And so that's where we're always worried about fixing that. Well, if I've got this DJ, take Elvis Duran, who I've trusted, I've grown up with, you've grown up with him for 20 years where you live. That's a trusted voice. If Elvis says, I've vetted this, that's your buddy who's vetted it, because he's not going to throw his name out there. I also want to add that about influencers, like with a company with Iheart Media. There's a ton of influencers out there on the internet you can buy and purchase and whatever. The difference is ours work for a, you know, multi-billion-dollar company.
Right.
Like we have protections in line to make sure that they don't hurt your brand. You hire some influencer off the internet that works for themselves. What do they care if they, you know, say something that's edgy, right? Thinking that they're getting likes or whatever. Our influencers are protected by us because they have jobs, right? And so there's a complete system, so you don't have risk of, is your influencer going to get you in trouble, which is a big concern. You know, today's social media, someone can put something out. So that combination of that reach to, at the right time of day, because I always come back to that, I challenge every dealer listening to this, look at your own GA. 70% of your search happens between 7 a.m. 7 p.m. during the day. It's not at night when you think how it used to be. So shifting your media to a daytime media, by the way, if you looked at the timestamps on most of your digital would have daytime timestamps on it as well. So shifting that to get frequency, to tell your story, to me, that's the way to make your digital work better.
Okay, so we're going to switch it up. I want to frame this because I'm really curious. I'm not sure if you know, but my daughter is 20 years old. She's been on the showroom floor for about 3 months now, and she's crushing it. She just closed 17 units last month, over $7,000 in personal income. Not bad for a 20-year-old young woman. But you know, her dealership, which is, shout out to Savage 61 in Reading, Pennsylvania, the dealer, Tim Profit, he's really smart, man. What he's doing is if you sell, I think it's 15 units a month, the dealership co-ops you. The dealership gives you $1,000 marketing budget. So what I want to ask you is, like, I'm in the process right now with working with the dealer and my daughter to come up with a really strong marketing. She's got her own website. It's better than, I think, some dealerships' websites, you know, tgotyourkeys.com. And what about the individuals that are out there, automotive sales professionals that don't want to like live on the nipple of the dealership waiting for the magic up bus? They want to go be more and do more and achieve more. Is radio and iHeart, you know, radio.com, Iheart Media or broadcast, you know, is that a viable option for them to?
You know, it is and it isn't. You know, I want to be clear on that. Right. You know, what I would be doing if I'm a seller inside of a dealership is I want to try a layer on process, kind of like what I recommend Tier 3 dealers do to Tier 2 dealers, to Tier 2 spends, is find where they are and double down in their areas. So if I'm Tatiana and I see that we're advertising on Facebook, you know, Savage is advertising on Facebook, I got that. I want to double down on Facebook so that I'm taking advantage of that advertising that Savage 61, and so there's a correlation to it. You know, so if they're not on radio, then I wouldn't go to radio. I'd go to where the bigger play is to get that frequency. Right? Oh wow,
I never thought of it like that. So okay, so if Savage 61 is on Facebook, she should turn around and just like double down on that.
Exactly.
Okay, and piggyback off of that. If they're on radio, then definitely double down on that, pick up on that.
100%. Okay. That's exactly the right way to do it. We do it with Tier 2 all the time. We tell our clients, like, hey, Tier 2 is investing for Honda in these markets. Hey, Tier 2 dealers, here's your opportunity to put your money against that so that there's an increased frequency of that Honda message. They're going to tell you, like Savage 61, perfect example. They're going to advertise, shop at us, here's the reason to buy us. And then she's going to come in, T's going to come in and say, great, you're shopping at Savage 61, make sure you ask for me.
Right.
Right. Here's the benefit I bring. That's the smart way to layer it up.
Okay, so that's really smart. LA, I'm going to let you come in a second with the mic, but my question is this, is that I'm an expert in digital marketing. I'm an expert consultant and trainer, and because of my wife's background in the entertainment industry, that's the only radio experience I've had, like working with PDs, working with Clear Channel on Radio 1 in Philadelphia and doing that type of stuff. But the average salesperson has no idea how this works. So can you give me an estimate of how much would they have to invest in? Let's just say if the dealership was doing some radio stuff, how much would Tiana have to or should invest in a month to be able to, you know, have some value?
Yeah, so I think you got to look at it a little bit different. I'd say it's a couple $1,000s, and obviously each market depends. But if you think about it, she should be using 15-second inventory. She doesn't need to tell a 30-second or a 60-second story, right? People always forget. You know what's 15 seconds? It's the Pledge of Allegiance. People think, 15, I don't get enough time. You say the Pledge of Allegiance, it's 15 seconds, and I'm pretty sure the Pledge of Allegiance has some good information in it.
Dude, right? That's dope. Bust some shots, LA. That was dope right there. Hold on. You gotta get some.
No, absolutely, man. That was great. But I want to add this to it because I don't even think, of course, you want to invest some money, but how about just investing some time? So if my dealership is marketing on the Elvis Duran, Steve Harvey show, why not just call the show and have a conversation with them about their topics and say, oh, so who am I talking to? Oh, this is Tiana from Savage 61. Yeah, I do. You know what I'm saying?
100%. That's just like what, you know, dealers are doing with YouTube, where, you know, you've got the 5-second. If they don't watch the 5-second view, then you don't pay for it. So they're moving their billboards to the front of the ads because you get that 4 seconds because we know people are skipping. It's a smart way to do it. To keep, you're exactly right, LA. Layer it on. Have those conversations. Be everywhere that they are.
Okay. Now, one question I have for you is, let's just say there's a dealer principal or GM that's listening to this, and I was like, okay, wow, I never thought of it this way. The always question is, where do you start? Okay, so I'm a dealer. I'm spending $30,000, $40,000 a month on advertising. I never thought of radio because I thought radio was like, like waste of money.
Yep.
But I'm like, oh shit. I mean, like, this sounds actually like it makes sense. Where is ground zero? Where do I start? What do I do? How much do I spend? Who do I, talk to?
Yeah, so the easiest way to start it out is you can email me, John Karpinski at IheartMedia.com. We've got, like I said, 149 markets. I've got 30-plus region auto leads who just focus on automotive, who came from the industry. iHeart, we're a little bit differently as we're building our organization. I'm not hiring just radio people. I'm hiring cars.com people. I'm hiring people who come from that industry to help you plan. Now, what many people don't know is I have a program called AutoFlight that's powered by Urban Science. So I'm the only media company in the United States that can see RDR sales for new cars on a daily basis. You say that again. AutoFlight powered by Urban Science. So Urban Science data, as we all know, unquestionable data. It's dealers' own RDR reports. Every day at 2 o'clock for every brand except for Ford right now, I can see their sales at every dealership, down to a zip code. I can see what models are moving. So I can help advise. So we're trying to take a different tact of call us, talk to us, we'll use our data. I always remind people, we're a $500 million almost automotive business at iHeart. There's not many media companies who have that much in automotive revenue. So we're taking our dollars to invest in products to help our dealers because we have the ability and the scale to do it. So the easiest way is to connect us. We'll give you our evaluation of what stations we should use. We use our own first-party data from iHeart because we've been capturing on the app people's device IDs to understand their listening habits, and we'll use that data for our first-party data to recommend which radio stations are the most likely to have the type of consumer you want. And we'll take it down to the segment level. Because I don't want, if you're pushing a truck, I'll give you an example in Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. They're always they're pushing trucks, they're buying country, and they're buying rock, all the things that you would consider. Our first-party data of our listeners showed that urban would be a really strong station there. Now, it wouldn't be something you'd think of trucks. But if you think of Austin, you think that trucks down there are people's luxury cars in a lot of ways. People totally pimp out their trucks, right? And you think of, you and I grew up in the 90s, right? Hip-hop is what I listen to every single day.
Oh my gosh, I love this guy.
Right?
Dude, you're awesome. I'm just seriously.
But you wouldn't think about that.
Right.
It's not your normal. But now that we're taking our first-party data and seeing the habits, now this dealer, even though the radio stations maybe rank 6th, then you wouldn't say, oh, hey, that's my thing. They're getting an efficient buy that they can track back to success because they're buying an audience that they didn't expect, but the data actually tells them that's a better place than just using your gut. So we're using our first-party data to make recommendations. We're using our AutoFlight powered by Urban Science to make sure they're in the right pockets of competitive information because dealers don't get to see daily RDRs. They get their Market Masters reports, and I always get told, oh, we already see all that data. You don't see the competitors that we can see. We make all that, and then we see if you're a right fit. I don't want to take somebody's money if it's not the right frequency. That's not good for me. We've got a lot of good value, but we want to do that, and if you think of it, you think it's right after that, then great. If you don't, we can live with that as well, because to me, frequency of starting that brand, if you believe in that, then you'll understand. The other key I would tell you, where I think dealers fall, is consistency. I always ask the best dealers, how long has your best salesperson, how long have they been there with you? And they're always like, 8 years, 10 years. I'm like, okay, what about your second best salesperson? 6 years, 10 years. I'm like, so consistency wins? And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, so quit coming in and out.
Wow.
If you're gonna go with radio as a broadcast medium, stay with it, right, because you're creating the consistency. Right. Are you gonna pop on radio and is it gonna drive your sales up by 20% the first month? No, it's not. And if any rep tells you it is, then they're lying. Then they're lying to you. Because if any of us could pop your sales by 20% every month, we wouldn't be sitting here in this restaurant doing this interview. Right. We'd be on a boat somewhere, enjoying ourselves. Right. It's part of your long-term plan of I need this audience to understand what I stand for, especially in 2019, because you stand for more than price. Because everybody's price has been leveled out now. So you have to stand for something more. So I want that message as a dealer to be consistent. Here's what you should think of me. And again, going back to 5 seconds and 15 seconds, really what do you need to tell me? Right? I need you to go to my website. Great inventory, that will match any valid price. Come check us out before you go into any stores. Over and over and over and over again till someone's like, oh yeah, I did hear of those guys. It's also credibility. Broadcast advertising gives you credibility. Like you said, radio and Elvis Duran seems big. Like I said about iHeart, it seems trusted. So if you're on that radio station, let's say you get to that list on the internet, and there's 2 stores that you've never heard of, and 1 store that you have heard of. You at least believe in your head psychologically, the one I have heard advertising must be legit because he's spending advertising on broadcast.
Right, absolutely.
And that helps drive where I said before, it makes your digital work better. That's what you're trying to do at the end. When that tiebreaker on the internet of the SEO, SEM, however you get listed, why do I want you?
I got to tell you, honestly, John, this is like eye-opening for me. Like, I obviously, I understood, but like I got a lot more clarity. What I'd like to be able to do is a couple things. One is I want to schedule a live streaming webinar to like our almost 13,000 members in the actual group, because this is kind of cool for the audio if people are driving for the podcast. But I think that if you're able to kind of show some examples, on your screen, or we're able to have in a webinar type format, I think you'll be able to kind of take people through the yellow brick road on how to do this. Also, we're really proud that this is the 3rd year that Iheart Media is going to be part of the Internet Sales 20 group.
Yep.
And are you the one that's going to be speaking?
Either me or Kristen Armstrong, who's our Vice President of Automotive down in the Houston region. She's amazing, one of our best, and I really, with so many dealers down in that area, I want to make sure they meet her as well, because, someone who understands it from an automotive standpoint rather than from a radio standpoint. That's what we're trying to deliver to the dealers. It's fair for every dealer to look at iHeartRadio and say, why are you into digital? What do you know about auto? Stay in your lane.
Right.
Fair question. But once they see the data we have, and we'll show on the webinar, like I said, that AutoFlight urban science data.
That's crazy.
It blows people's mind. And then they start thinking about, as I mentioned before, we're almost a $500 million automotive company. Oh, it makes sense why you guys are expanding into these other things. It makes sense. And so when your dealers meet someone like Kristen, and they can say, hey, I know who my radio reps used to be, but in 2019, I see what iHeart has done on bringing in people from the auto industry. Instead of trying to make radio people auto people, we're making auto people radio people.
A couple things. What I want you to think about, because you're going to have a lot of visibility, because especially from all this is really kind of cool for me. You're going to have a speaking session is one thing, so whether that's you or Kristen is fine, but you're also going to have a roundtable. Here's what I think would be great is to be able to, I think this is important, you at the conference, you should definitely educate dealers on, who iHeartMedia is, iHeartRadio is, and how it could directly be beneficial to them. But what I think would be great is if you were also able to show how do you start. Because that's the thing that I'm telling you. I know my audience, I know my conference. They're going to be like, okay, this sounds cool, but it's like, you ever go to the Cheesecake Factory and you have this big-ass menu and it's like, oh my God, this looks, and then you just order a cheeseburger? I don't want that to happen with something as awesome as this. So I would like you to be prepared at the conference to say, okay, if you guys are interested in this, step 1 is you contact Kristen, you contact me. Step 2 is we would do the research. Step 3, and then if you have examples of actual creative and whatnot, and if I'm understanding, you know how like you have your iHeartRadio DJs at the VIP parties there? I would assume, because I know my guy Jason Clear from the Vision Auto Group, who's a big iHeart guy, the guy who was on the phone with you, he actually involves his DJs, the influencers. He's freaking smart to do videos, to do little plugs. That when they have like events at the dealership, because dealerships do client appreciation. Can you just talk about that for a second? Like, oh my God, how crazy is it that not only are forget about just the broadcast, the traditional aspect, but if you develop a relationship with iHeart. When dealers do these client appreciations, they do these events, they do stuff with the community, they could do stuff with your influencers and your DJs.
100%. So the first thing I would tell you, back to what you were saying, is we use a method that we'll go through at the conference. The way we say it is plan it, promote it, prove it.
Ooh, I like that.
Plan it using our AutoFlight and our smart audio first-party data. Promote it is what mechanisms are we going to use, and then prove it is I can show how it worked, I can track it back to sales with a bunch of our products. So we use that method to help dealers understand how we're doing it differently. Remind me of the second part of the question again.
How you could use the influencers.
Oh, great.
To interview.
Yeah, so that goes back to what I was talking about, that Kylie Jenner example of people, all respect to my dealership friends that have all these followers on Facebook or Instagram. Nobody's following you because they care what you want to write. You look them up for an oil change special or whatever. But people are actual fans of our on-air talent. When they follow them on Instagram or Facebook, or they follow the radio station on Facebook, they're actual fans. They want information.
Right.
Our social channels, like I said, are bigger. Look at our influencers and find a social channel in Philadelphia that's bigger than our influencers. You can't hardly. So if I'm using Z100 or I'm using Scary Jones in New York, their followers are significantly bigger than anything else you can find. So you marry that with the on-air, with then Scary Jones is at your dealership and he's pushing out social video about the appearance to 96,000 people in the New York area. And he's taking it and he's got a loaner car for a weekend. And he's doing a road trip down to Atlantic City to show how he can fit in all his friends, and he's doing a shot that can be really easy off social media. Same thing you do. You know how easy it is to promote it.
Absolutely.
But our people have fans, and that's the biggest difference. You can push on social media, but so much on social media is just noise.
Okay, true transparency, we've talked about different things, as far as with dealers and dealer synergy and IS20G, but John, honestly, I'm not just saying this because of the podcast. I really love this conversation with the influencers. I would like you to try to create a presentation. Obviously, we want to let them know about radio media, but I think the spin here is being able to explain to the dealer audience, especially in 2019, 2020, kind of bridging the broadcast radio with the influencers in the social, but not just conceptually, hey, we have DJs that have a lot of fans, but showing some examples. Yep. We have joint clients, and even if it was just an iHeart, if you could come prepared with, how are your influencers, how are your DJs, doing community events or dealership events, how are they, I love that idea you just said about they're in a loaner car. I know a dealer that would, a ton of dealers that would give somebody a freaking, whatever type of loaner car, especially the Telluride or something like that for the weekend. Yep. You know what I mean? Just so they could take it to the show and stuff like that. So can you put something together for November 11th through the 13th for the Internet Sales 20 Group in Houston with not only the power of broadcast and radio, but also how to leverage that with true influencer marketing and advertising?
Very easy. Really, to simplify, to take it all into one little bubble, really what we're doing and we're helping the dealer with is managing the trust gap. We all have a trust gap, right? So that's what our influencers are doing. I call it borrowed imagery. They're taking their value, transferring it to the dealer because that talent has trust with consumers, right? And so bridging that together to deliver a message to the consumer of that guy I trust, if he says this is a legitimate place, through his on-air, through his social media, now you've created a relationship with the consumer that can mean something. So when they see your digital ads, which are the backbone of your advertising, now they mean something more than what I just read on the screen.
I love it, and I'm going to put a to be continued, because one thing I want to also share with you, because we got to stop, but we got to go to a cover shoot in a second here. I was going to miss the cover of a national magazine. I also want to talk to you, I want you to think about this for my daughter. I want to position Tiana to become an influencer. And I think she could use conventional media and she could use conventional reach to accelerate her to be an influencer. She could turn on and do it organically, what she's doing. But can you imagine if she's doing stuff on radio? Hey, if you got any questions, if you want to, I could let T's got your keys. If it's just kind of branding to get her known as your car girl, your car resource, what have you. So that's going to be 2D community for the next one, okay? LA, you're going to take us out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say this about what you just said. So many people do that. Credit customers, right? They got, the lady that comes on and talk about credit. You got the person that comes on and talks about law. Why not have Tiana come on and talk about, buying a car? So that's beautiful stuff. So, man, thanks so much, everybody, for listening. This is the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. It's your turn. Go out there and be a millionaire car salesman. To be continued.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you like it, you love it, you want more of it, then don't wait for the next money show. Just go to bradleyondemand.com and take your career to the next level.